What if you lose focus? And because you lose focus, you do not get to where you want to be financially. And all of a sudden, an adversity pops up in your family, and your family needs you. But because you lost focus for a month, or a quarter, or for a year, you're not where you need to be financially. And because of it, you can't write the check that's needed. I don't know about you, but that would absolutely kill me. Welcome back to the Leaders Only podcast, where we talk about business, leadership, mindset, and just pretty much anything revolved around building an incredible life. You know, one of the reasons that I started this podcast is because I felt like on the way to where we're at now, there wasn't really a place to go to learn tangible skills that are needed in order to succeed and further yourself and just get better overall in every area of your life. And so some background about me, I built a sales company that does over 8 figures a year. I own over $10 million worth of real estate, and I built a multiple 7-figure income that's streamlined and in all honesty doesn't really need me. I plan on teaching you and documenting everything that I learned along the way. And if you get something out of today's message, if you can do me a favor, if you can like, share, and subscribe, it will give us the ability to further our message and help more people, which is what we're all about. Thank you guys so much. Let's dive in. There are a few things in my life that I'm good at. There's a lot of things that I'm absolutely bad at, but there are a few things in my life that I'm extremely good at. And I think one of them is the ability to stay focused for long periods of time. And so today I'm going to go over why it's so important. I'm going to go over what typically causes people to enter a level of extreme focus. And I'm also going to go over how to stay focused after you get focused. Because I think a lot of people get focused, but like I said earlier, it only lasts a week or two or maybe a month or whatever it is. And then a distraction pops up, adversity pops up, life pops up, and people get off track. And then it takes them a long time to rebuild their momentum. And so I'm going to go over how to stay focused and why it's so important. And so with that being said, I want you to think about it almost like an airplane, okay? When an airplane is trying to get off the ground, do you think they accelerate and then let off the gas when they're trying to hit peak altitude? Of course not. Because if they keep letting off the gas, they're not going to have enough horsepower behind them in order to reach the altitude that they need to hit to reach a cruising level. And that's typically what happens to most people when it comes to hitting their goals. They go full throttle for a week, and then they let off the gas because they get distracted. They go full throttle for a month, and they let off the gas because they got tired. They go full throttle for a quarter, and then they let off the gas because some adversity pops up in their life and it just distracts them. And that's not good at all. Because if you keep letting off the gas, that means you have to keep rebuilding momentum. And momentum is one of those things that it's hard to get and it's easy to lose. It's extremely easy to lose. So every single time you let off the gas, you lose momentum, and it takes months to get it back. Another reason it's so important to stay focused is, I'm going to use a car analogy now. We're going to talk about all these different types of automobiles, right? If I was driving, I'm in San Diego. So let's say I was driving to Las Vegas and I get in my car and I start driving. But then all of a sudden, I need to stop and get gas. Then all of a sudden, I get a pop tire, right? Maybe I need to pull over and grab a snack. Maybe I want to pull over just because I got a little bit tired, whatever it might be. Every single time I pull over, what happens to that estimated time of arrival? It gets pushed back and gets pushed back and gets pushed back. So let's say I was leaving right now, and it was supposed to only take me 4 hours to get to Las Vegas. I don't know how long it takes. I normally fly, right? But let's say it only takes me 4 hours to get to Las Vegas. Every single time I pull over for gas, every single time I pull over for adversity like a pop tire, every single time I pull over just because I got tired or exhausted or whatever it might be, I push back that estimated time of arrival. So when it comes to staying focused, every single time you get distracted, you push back that estimated time of arrival for your goals, for your dreams, and for the life that you want to have. And I don't know about you, I don't want that estimated time of arrival to continue to get pushed back. When it comes to my goal, I want it sooner rather than later. And every single time we lose focus, we push it back. And that's another reason why it's so important. And last reason why I want to explain why it's so important is not a selfish perspective like what I just gave you. It's a selfless perspective. Meaning, what if you lose focus? And because you lose focus, you do not get to where you want to be financially. And all of a sudden, an adversity pops up in your family, and your family needs you. But because you lost focus for a month or a quarter or for a year, you're not where you need to be financially. And because of it, you can't write the check that's needed. I don't know about you, but that would absolutely kill me. Or let's say you lose focus. And because you lose focus, your skills do not develop to a level in which they should. And now all of a sudden, you sit down with a potential prospect or a client, or you sit down with somebody that wants to change their life, maybe in the fitness space or any space, and you have the ability to help them. But because you lost focus, your skills are down. And because your skills are down, that person doesn't get the help that they need. So there's a ripple effect to every action and or lack of actions that we take. And if we have a whole bunch of lack of actions because we're losing focus, that's families' lives that are impacted in a negative way. Potentially that could be your family's life that's impacted in a negative way. And we want to avoid that from happening. So there are two things that typically lead to somebody entering extreme levels of focus. And number one, we want to avoid at all costs. And I'll talk about it in just a second. And number two is what we want to strive for. And I'm not saying that you can't get focused without these two things. But out of the thousands of people that I've mentored, I've coached in business and in life, these are typically the two things that lead to huge amounts of change and extreme levels of focus, which ultimately leads to a better life and people hitting goals and just overall becoming better. And so let's talk about number one, which is the one that we want to avoid at all costs. And that's extreme pain. Extreme pain typically leads to extreme levels of focus. And let me explain what I mean. When does somebody typically make the biggest adjustments and or changes when it comes to their health and their dietary methods? It's typically either A, they look themselves in the mirror and they just get fed up with what they see. They get mad about what they see. And that anger and them being fed up about it is what typically leads to that change. Malcolm X said that which you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate. And I think when you hate something enough and when you get mad enough or frustrated enough or experience extreme levels of pain, that's where the adjustments get made. And so A is they look themselves in the mirror and they just get fed up, or B, they get hospitalized. An illness pops up because they weren't taking care of themselves. And now they have no other option to, because if they don't change, they're going to lose their life and they're going to leave their family abandoned. So that's just an example of why it's so important. But let's look at another example. Somebody goes through a divorce, somebody goes through a heartbreak, and then what do? You see them change their life. Well, why is that? They went through such pain that they want to change. They go through such change that they use focus and they develop new habits almost as a coping mechanism to deal with the pain. And I know that's what happened to me. I didn't go through a divorce. I didn't go through a breakup, but my dad got sick. I grew up playing soccer my entire life, and I was pretty good up until the age of 11 or 12. But I would say at 11 to 12 years old, I started getting really good at the game of soccer. And one of the reasons is that's when my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And he was told that he had 3 months to live. And I remember him saying goodbye to me. And I remember him saying goodbye to my brothers. And I remember the pain that I felt. And I remember, he ended up fighting it and beating it. And, he stayed with us another 14 years before he lost his life to cancer. But it led to extreme levels of focus for me because I ended up getting really good at the game of soccer as a coping mechanism and as a way to distract myself from what I was feeling. And I'm not saying it's necessarily healthy, but it's what I did and it's what a lot of people do. And it's the same thing that happened in business. I remember going into business and my dad getting re-diagnosed with cancer and them telling us that he doesn't have a lot of time to live. And the exact same thing happened. I used business as a coping mechanism. It was a way for me to put my head down and distract myself from the reality of what was going on, to distract myself from the pain that I was actually feeling. And it allowed me to get dialed in on getting better and learning the skills necessary in order to win and succeed in business and financially. And like I said, I don't want any of us to go down that route because I don't want anyone to feel pain. But it's unfortunate that people typically have to experience pain in order to make change. And so like I said, number one, we want to avoid at all costs, which leads me to number two, which is having a burning desire. Whether that's having a burning desire to be somebody and do something great with your life, whether it's a burning desire to want to help people and contribute to the lives of other people, whether it's a burning desire to just become more healthy and become more fit or do better financially because you're tired of struggling financially, whatever it might be, burning desires pull people towards the dream. They pull people towards the goal. And it makes it a lot easier to succeed when you have that burning desire, because when you crave the result more than you think about the work that's required to get it, that's typically when you're able to stay focused for long periods of time. But what happens is most people have a small goal, they have a small dream. What they want really doesn't matter that much to them. They're more interested than committed. And interested means they like the idea up until it gets inconvenient. They like the idea up until it's time to put in the work. Commitment is doing what you said you're going to do long after the feeling you said it in is gone. So when you're committed to a goal because it means so much to you that when the adversity pops up, it keeps you going. When the setback happens, it keeps you going. When somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, can you do this, that, or the third? You say, hey, I apologize. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's that I can't help you because I have this goal that's on my mind right now and I need to go make it happen because it means that much to you. This is why you see professional athletes push themselves to a point where they can barely walk, right? They push themselves to extreme levels of pain because they crave the results more than they think about the pain that's required in order to achieve the success that they want to achieve. Think about the Navy SEALs. All right. Why in the world would somebody put themselves through buds, put themselves into an environment where they're going to get shot, stabbed, potentially killed? Why would anyone put themselves in an environment like that? It's because they crave the result of making a difference. They crave the result of protecting those that are back home here in the United States. They crave that result. And so guess what? They're able to put themselves through extreme levels of pain because the desire of what they want outweighs the pain that's required in order to get it. And so those are the two things that typically causes someone to have extreme levels of focus. Number one is extreme pain. Let's avoid it. And number two is having a burning desire to do something great, to accomplish a goal where something just means so much to you that all the distractions and all the noise and all the adversity gets blocked out. And so now what I want to go over with you is how to stay focused for a long period of time. So how do you actually stay focused? You know, a lot of people, they get focused, but then they lose it. They get focused and they lose it, like I talked about earlier using the airplane analogy. And so what I want to go over with you are 4 tangible things that you can use and apply right out the gate that's going to help you hit your goals and hit the target a lot faster. So let's talk about number 1. Write this down. And if you're driving, you can listen back to this later or write it in your notes, whatever you might want to do. Just don't crash on me because I'm not liable. Okay? So let's dive in. Number 1, gaining focus is the process of eliminating distractions. It's not prioritizing one thing over everything else, even though that is a method, right? It's eliminating all distractions so you have nothing else taking up your energy and nothing else taking up space in your mind. And so what I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to write down exactly what you want. What's the goal? What's the target? And I want you to look at everything in the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days that you've participated in that has distracted you from executing on that goal. Because like I said, focus is not prioritizing one thing over other things. Focus is the process of eliminating everything that's distracting you from hitting that one thing. So number 1, gaining focus is the process of eliminating distractions. So number 2 is learning to say no. I was interviewed on Jeff Fenster's podcast a couple of months back. And for those of you who don't know who Jeff Fenster is, he's the founder and creator of Everbowl and a lot of other even more successful companies than even Everbowl. And his podcast is all about finding your success formula. And as I was meeting with him, he asked me, Matt, what is your success formula? And to be honest with you, I was stumped. I didn't have a formula. It was not something that I really thought through. But then he asked me a question later on in the interview. And the question was, Matt, how do you go about hitting your goal? How do you go about accomplishing a task? I told him, I said, I have a very simple answer. I look at the goal, I look at the task, and anything that pops up, I ask myself one simple question. Is this going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, I don't do it. And if the answer is yes, I advance. And so that one question has kept me extremely focused at pretty much any goal that I've ever gone after. Because anytime something pops up that's distracting, I ask myself, is this going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? No, don't do it. Yes, do it. Hey, Matt, can you go on this vacation trip? Well, I'm in the process of hunting down a goal right now. And as much as I love you and as much as I would love to go on that trip with you, is that trip going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? The answer is no. I'm sorry, I can't go on that trip. And so I simplified my decision-making process to what's the goal? Is this going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? No, don't do it. Yes, advance. And that simple questionnaire that I do with myself has led to me being able to stay extremely focused for long periods of time. Number 3, build in a routine that leads to you putting in the work. You know, as much as I'm a pretty disciplined person, one of the things that I've realized over the years is that it hasn't been so much the discipline that's led to me staying on track when it comes to hitting a goal or hitting a target. It's been more of my routines that it's led to me putting in the work and hitting a target. And let me explain what I mean. You know, when you look at a professional athlete, whether it's NFL, soccer, you know, the NBA, I mean, you name it, right? Professional athletes typically have a routine, not only the night before a game, but the morning of a game. And they have a routine that they do right as the game is starting. Why is that? They are preparing their mind to succeed. They are preparing their body to succeed. They are preparing every part of them to succeed. But how come people that are trying to do something great with their life, they don't have a routine to prepare for every single day? Because as an entrepreneur or someone in business or just someone that wants to achieve high levels of success in their life, every day is game day, which means you got to prepare for every day the same way that an athlete prepares for every single game. So you should have a routine every single night that leads to you being rested and ready for the next day. You should have a routine every single morning that leads to you executing. And I like to stay as focused as I possibly can. And just to give you an example of this, I had somebody who I've mentored and I've coached in business, and they were someone that always traveled. And they traveled all over the place. And he told me, he said, Matt, I'm one of those people that I can work from anywhere and I always follow my routine. And I said, as much as I believe you, part of me doubts that, because it's hard to have the same routine when you're in a different location every couple of days. And so I said, this is what I want you to try. I want you to measure the amount of results that you get this month traveling. And then I want you to measure the results that you get next month. And I want you to stay in the same place all month long. And guess what? Last month, he had his best sales month that he's ever had. He's had his best everything month last month that he's ever had. And one of the reasons is he had a structured routine that led to putting in the work every single day. That routine didn't change, which means he didn't have a lot of things to think about, which that means he's eliminated distractions, thinking about where am I going to work out? Where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to do this? Where am I going to do that? All of those things were eliminated, and he was able to think about and focus on one thing and one thing only, which was winning. And so if I can encourage you, it would be to build a routine that leads to you putting in the work. And the last one, number 4, is build out your calendar so there is no room for distractions. You know, an empty calendar is the devil's playground. And every single time there's an empty space in your calendar, that's a time where you could potentially get distracted. And so one of the things that I like to do the night before every single day, I like to look at my entire calendar, and I like to make sure that every minute on the minute is planned out. Everything. From when I eat, to the gym, to when I personally develop, to the appointments that I have, to spending time with my daughter, to spending time with my wife, all of it is scheduled in. So that way there's no room for distractions. So now that way when somebody calls me tomorrow and says, hey, Matt, can you do this, that, or the third? I say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm booked. Or I won't even respond till later that night, because I also have a spot in my calendar where I respond to all the messages that I missed that day, because I have about 100 messages a day minimum that comes in. And so by you building out your calendar and leaving no empty spaces, it eliminates time for distractions. It eliminates anything that could steal your mind, steal your time. And so I promise you, if you guys do these 4 things, it will make all the difference in the world when it comes to staying focused and hitting your goals and hitting the target. So hopefully today helped. And if you got something out of today, if you could do me a favor, if you can once again like, share, and subscribe, it would mean the absolute world to us. I know there's a lot of people in this world that are distracted. There's a lot of people in this world that have big goals, they have big dreams, they want to do great things with their life, but they can't stay focused. And today's message can help. So if you guys can help share and spread the word, that would mean the world to us. Thank you guys again. And I'll see you guys next week on the next episode.